Okay, so for reading today, we are moving to chapter 5, which is called Running Free. It was the best year of Bertie's young life, but when it ended more painfully than he could ever have imagined. He'd always known that one day, when he was older, he would have to go away to school, but he had thought and hoped it would not be for a long time yet. He'd simply put it out of his mind. His father had just returned home from Johannesburg after his yearly business trip. He broke the news at supper that first evening. Bertie knew there was something in the wind. His mother had been sad again in recent days. Not sick, just strangely sad. She wouldn't look him in the eye, and she winced whenever she tried to smile at him. The lion had just lain down beside him, his head warm on Bertie's feet, when his father cleared his throat and began. It was going to be a lecture. Bertie had had them before, often enough, about manners, about being truthful, about the dangers of leaving the compound. "You'll soon be 8, Bertie," he said, "and your mother and I have been doing some thinking. A boy needs a proper education, a good school. Well, we've found just the right place for you, a school near Salisbury in England. Your Uncle George and Aunt Melanie live nearby and have promised to look after you in the holidays and to visit you from time to time. They'll be father and mother to you for a while. You'll get on with them well enough, I'm sure you will. They are fine, good people. So you'll be off on the ship in July. Your mother will accompany you. She will spend the summer with you in Salisbury, and after she has taken you to your school in September, she'll then return here to the farm. It's all arranged." As his heart filled with a terrible dread, all Bertie could think of was his white lion. "But the lion," he cried. "What about the lion?" "I'm afraid there's something else I have to tell you," his father said. Looking across the table at Bertie's mother, he took a deep breath, and then he told him. He told him he had met a man whilst he was in Johannesburg, a Frenchman, a circus owner from France. He was over in Africa looking for lions and elephants to buy for his circus. He liked them young, very young, a year or less, so that he could train them up without too much trouble. Besides, they were easier and cheaper to transport when they were young. He would be coming out to the farm in a few days' time to see the white lion for himself. If he liked what he saw, he would pay good money and take him away. It was the only time in his life when Bertie had ever shouted at his father, "No! No, you can't!" It was rage that wrung the hot tears from him, but they soon gave way to silent tears of sadness and loss. There was no comforting him, but his mother tried all the same. "We can't keep him here forever, Bertie," she said. "We always knew that, didn't we? And you've seen how he stands by the fence gazing out into the veld. You've seen him pacing up and down. But we can't just let him out. He'd be all on his own, no mother to protect him. He couldn't cope. He'd be dead in weeks. You know he would." "But you can't send him to the circus. You can't," said Bertie. "He'll be shut up behind bars. I promised him he never would be. And they'll point at him. They'll laugh at him. He'd rather die. Any animal would." But he knew as he looked across the table at them that it was hopeless, that their minds were quite made up. For Bertie the betrayal was total. That night he made up his mind what had to be done. He waited until he heard his father's deep breathing next door. Then, with his white lion at his heels, he crept downstairs in his pyjamas, took down his father's rifle from the rack and stepped out into the night. The compound gate yawned open noisily when he pushed it. But then they were out and running free. Bertie had no thought of the dangers around him, only that he must get as far from home as he could before he... The lion padded along beside him, stopping every now and then to sniff the air. A clump of trees became a herd of elephants wandering towards them out of the dawn. Bertie ran for it. He knew how elephants hated lions. He ran and ran till his legs could run no more. As the sun came up over the veld, he climbed to the top of a cope and sat down, his arm around the lion's neck. The time had come. "Be wild now," he whispered. "You've got to be wild. Don't come home. Don't ever come home. They'll put you behind bars. You hear what I'm saying? All my life I think of you. I'll think of you. I promise I will. I won't ever forget you." And he buried his head in the lion's neck and heard the greeting groan from deep inside him. He stood up. "I'm going now," he said. "Don't follow me. Please don't follow me." And Bertie clambered down off the cope and walked away. When he looked back, the lion was still sitting there watching him, but then he stood up, yawned, stretched, licked his lips, and sprang down after him. Bertie shouted at him, but he kept coming. He threw sticks, he threw stones. Nothing worked. The lion would stop, but then as soon as Bertie walked on, he simply followed at a safe distance. "Go back!" Bertie yelled. "You stupid, stupid lion! I hate you! I hate you! Go back!" But the lion kept loping after him, whatever he did, whatever he said. There was only one thing for it. He didn't want to do it, but he had. With tears filling his eyes and his mouth, he lifted the rifle to his shoulder and fired over the lion's head. At once the lion turned tail and scampered away through the veld. Bertie fired again. He watched till he could see him no more, and then turned for home. He knew he'd have to face what was coming to him. Maybe his father would strap him. He'd threatened it often enough, but Bertie didn't mind. His lion would have his chance for freedom. Maybe not much of one. Anything was better than the bars and whips of a circus. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Your 5 quickfire questions are: how old is Bertie in this chapter, and how do we know? Question 2, why did Bertie's heart fill with terrible dread, on page 39? Question 3, how did Bertie know there was something going to happen, or something about to happen? Question 4, what did Bertie's dad plan to do with the lion cub? And question 5, what do you think his father's deep breathing next door signified to Bertie? So what did that mean? Your sentence stems. Remember to answer in full sentences, please. Okay, so Bertie's 7 in this chapter, and we know this because his dad says, "You'll soon be 8. Okay. Question 2, Bertie's heart filled with a terrible dread as he was thinking about what would happen to the white lion when he was at school. Question 3, Bertie knew there was something about to happen as his mum had been sad again in recent days, and it wasn't because she was poorly. Okay, Bertie's dad planned to sell the lion cub to a French circus. And I think his father's deep breathing next door signified to Bertie that his father was asleep, meaning that he could go out into the veld. Okay, there's 3 questions that need a bit more brain power. Our question 6, how did Bertie's mum try to persuade Bertie that giving the lion to the circus would be the best thing to do? Okay, use page 41 to help you with that one. Question 7, Bertie calls the lion stupid and says he hates him on page 44. Do you think that he really feels that way? Why does he say it? Okay. And question 8, why do you think Michael Morpurgo called this chapter Running Free? Can you think of an alternative name for this chapter? So alternative means another. Can you think of another name for this chapter? If you were the author, what could you call it other than Running Free? Okay, pause this screen while you have a go at those 3 questions. Okay, question 6. How did Bertie's mum try to persuade Bertie that giving the lion to the circus would be the best thing to do? We can see on page 41 down to here. Okay, this is where Bertie is saying to his Bertie's mum, is saying to Bertie, we can't keep him here forever. We always knew that, didn't we? And you've seen how he stands by the fence gazing out into the veld. What does that make us think? You've seen how he stands by the fence gazing out into the veld. That makes us feel a little bit sorry, doesn't it, for the lion, that he's kept in the compound, that he's kept in the house all the time. Okay, it's Bertie's mum, I think, trying to make Bertie feel sad and feel guilty for keeping this wild animal in a confined space when really he should be out in the wild. You've seen him pacing up and down again. It's like he's getting bored, like he's too big for the area. Okay, like he's wanting to get out, he's wanting to do something else. But she's also then saying we can't just let him out. He'd be all on his own. Again, she's trying to make Bertie feel a little bit guilty that he can't stop in the house. He wants to be somewhere else. But she's also saying he can't be in the wild because he'd be all on his own. and he's got no mother to protect him. She's saying he couldn't cope with that. He'd be dead in weeks. And she says to Bertie, you know he would. Okay. So Bertie's mum tried to persuade Bertie that giving the lion to the circus would be the best thing to do by making him feel bad that the lion was not enjoying being in the compound and in their house, that he was just too big for it now and that they could never keep him forever. But if they release him into the wild, then he would die because he's not got none of those hunting skills, okay, or those skills to look after himself, which his mum would have taught him to do when he was a little cub. Okay, question 7. Bertie calls the lion stupid and says that he hates him. That's down here. He's yelling. We can tell he's yelling at the lion. He's got, you stupid, stupid lion. I hate you. I hate you. Go back. Do you think he really feels this way? Again, it's completely up to you, but in my opinion, if I was answering the question, I would have said he does not feel. I do not think that Bertie really feels this way, because everything in the book up until this point has shown us that Bertie really loves the lion, okay, and also that the lion loves Bertie and his family. But I think he says this because he is upset. I think he says it because he is frustrated. He's frustrated because he knows that if the lion follows him all the way back to his house, then he's going to end up at the circus, okay? He has given him this opportunity to be free and to go and live his life in the wild, okay? He's wanted to do that because he loves him, okay? When he doesn't do this, when the lion follows Bertie back, he gets really frustrated and really angry. Okay. Question 8. Why do you think Michael Morpurgo called this chapter Running Free? Can you think of an alternative name for this chapter? Okay, so I think Michael Morpurgo called this chapter Running Free because Bertie is trying to help the lion to run free, okay, to escape what could be quite upsetting and limiting for him at the circus, okay? And your alternative name, I'm not going to come up with one, because that's completely up to you, okay? I'm sure there's loads of good ones out there. If you get a chance, can you email them over to us and we will let you know some of the other ideas that we have come through from your friends.
Good morning, guys. Okay, we're going to mark yesterday's work first before carrying on with today's learning. So you were looking at exploring different times of the day, and we're using that with it. We're recapping on days in the month and how many days in the month and all those little bits that we'd started. So the number one, if you'll do it, was asking you to put these events in the correct order from the earliest to the latest. Now you could have written those in a list or written them out as it is and numbered them. I do not mind. I'm going to number them because I haven't got enough space to write it all out. So from the earliest, I would have said that breakfast would have been the earliest, so number 1. And then the next would have been, well, it totally depends which day of the week you're thinking about, but if it was a Monday and we have assembly in the morning, then assembly would have come next. Then 2 o'clock would have been, well, you can have 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but if I'm going to take that as 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because you shouldn't be seeing 2 o'clock in the morning, then that will come next, and then bedtime would be last. However, if you're thinking about Friday assembly, then you would have had assembly after 2 o'clock, because our assembly on a Friday is at 2:45. So you might have put 2 o'clock as number 2 and assembly as number 3. So I do not mind which way around you've done those two, because you might have been thinking of a different day. So well done if you got that. I think that was pretty easy. Number 2, true or false? Breakfast is in the morning. I really, really hope everyone said it was true. And if you've put, unless it's whichever day of the week we have all day breakfast at school, then that's fine. Number 3, fill in the blanks. There are how many days in March? Okay, so if you think back to our calendar lesson and the song, so 30 days have September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31. And then it's February that can have 28 or 29. So there are 31 days in March. And there are 48 what in 2 days. And we did something very similar to this when we were practicing it. And so hopefully you've written hours. There are 48 hours in 2 days. And the last one, number 4, match the statements to the correct number. So days in August. So remember that rhyme again. 30 days have September, April, June and November. All the rest have 31. Because I think we should know there's definitely more than 8 and more than 12 days in a month. Hours in half a day. Well, we know that there's 24 hours in a whole day, and half of 24 is 12. And then days in 4 weekends. There's 2 days in 1 weekend. So if there's 4 weekends, then 4 lots of 2 is 8. So well done if you got those. Let's have a little look at your Secure It. Again, we did something very similar to this to practice, so hopefully I didn't trick you. But in this month, there are no school holidays, so this is just a month where it's just you're at school and you don't have any weeks off. And Teddy says, in this month, we have to come to school for 31 days. Do you agree with Teddy? Explain your thinking. Then the next question, which month could it be? Well, hopefully you remember from the last example that we looked at that I think Teddy might be counting his Saturdays and Sundays as well. Silly banana. So we've got those, they are all Saturdays, okay, and all of these are Sundays, and because they are the weekend, we are not actually at school then. So there are 8 days of that month that are weekends where you would not be at school. Okay, and there are 31 days altogether. Okay, so that's 31, and he's wrong. You're not going to be in school for all of those 31 days because 8 of those are weekends. Okay, so in your answer you could have said, no, I don't agree with Teddy because 8 of those days are the weekend and you are not at school at the weekend. If you wanted to really challenge yourself, you could have then worked out how many days he would actually be in school. There's a few ways you could have done it. You could have done 31 take away 8 like that. You could have had a look at counted in 5s because Monday to Friday is 5 days. That's 5, 10, 15, 20 plus those 3 is 23. So we could have said it's actually just 23 weekdays, so you're only at school for 23 days. And so that's the answer for that first part. Do you agree with Teddy? No, because he's counting the weekends as well. He's including the weekends within that 31 days, and there's 8 days that are a part of a weekend, so you'd only be at school for 23 in that month. And then which month could it be? Back to that poem again. 30 days have September, April, June and November. So as long as you've not written those or February, then you are correct. So we could have had I'm trying to think my best stuff. So we could have had January, not February because it's 28 to 29. Could have had March, not April because that's in the rhyme. 30 days have September. Write those down there for you. September, April, June and November. And then we know that February has 28. So it could have been January, not February, March, not April, May, not June, July, August, not September, October, not November, and December. Okay, so we could have had any of those. It could be any one of those months. But then if you really wanted to challenge yourself even further, you could have then said, as it says this is a month, and there are no school holidays, well, we have a pretty big school holiday in the summer. We're not in school at all in August, so it can't be that one. December is when we have Christmas. Can't be that month then, there'll be a school holiday there. October, we usually have a half term in October, don't we? And we do in May, we have a week half term in May. July, we are normally in school for the whole of July. January, it depends which year. Sometimes if January the 1st is on a Monday, then it's still Christmas holidays. And then March tends to be when Easter falls, and October we tend to have a half term at the end of October. So I think it could have been July or January. If you put any of those, that would have been fine. But if you really wanted to challenge yourself, and if you spotted that first bit there, it says there are no school holidays, then I would have been very impressed. So well done, guys, if you did well on those. Okay, so for today's learning then, we are going to be exploring minutes past the hour. Now, time, I find, is so tricky to get just to understand it from the beginning. So we're going to take it nice and slowly, and we're going to do bits at a time, okay? This is something that you guys could be practicing the entire time that you are at home. If you've got a watch especially, that'd be amazing. Or if you've got a clock in your house, just constantly practicing to become time masters by checking the time, having a go at looking at the hands, working out what you think the time is, and asking somebody at home if that is the time, and just talking about it and checking on it throughout the day. That's one of the best ways. I know that's what I used to do when I was little and learning time. I found it really difficult, so I just had to keep practicing at home, and I got to watch, and that was when I was in year 3. So please do not stress. You can keep rewatching the video to go back over things. So we're going to take it nice and slow. But at the moment, we're just going to recap the stuff that you've already learnt in year 2. That's a bit of the stuff that we would be doing anyway in year 3. And today we're just going to focus on looking at minutes past the hour. Okay, so pause it now so you can write today's date and hello. Okay, right, so firstly then we're going to have a little look at a clock face. So have a little look at it. What do you notice? This is so difficult because I don't know how much you guys remember, and I can't ask you because I'm not actually with you. So I'm just going to talk you through it. I don't want to keep talking at you, but I can't get you to answer questions for me, unfortunately. So at the very top of our clock face, okay, we have, well, across the whole clock face, we've got 12 numbers, okay? 12 is at the very top, okay? That's midday, midnight, and o'clock, all right? All these big numbers, they are the hours, okay? The big numbers are the hours. They tell us which hour of the day we are in. These little dots here, these are minutes, okay? Now, you'll notice that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there are 5 minutes in each of these jumps. Okay, that's number 5, that's number 5, that's number 5. Okay, so if you could just count in 5s for me, you don't have to write anything down, you can just have a look counting to start from 12. So 5, 10. Okay, so how many minutes are there in an entire hour, in a whole hour? There are 60 minutes, okay? So our minute hand, it starts here, okay, o'clock, and it takes 60 minutes for our minute hand, to go all the way around back until it's the next hour, okay? It takes 60 minutes. So every minute, and there's 60 seconds in a minute, so when 60 seconds is in, our minute hand moves across to the next little minute dot. Okay, so we have 2 hands on our clock. We have our minute hands, okay, that tells us how many minutes past that hour, and we have our hour hand, which tells us which hour we are in. Now, it's so difficult to get these right, So I'm going to, again, do it nice and slowly. So our minute hands, we've said that the big numbers on the clock are our hours, and the little dots that are just past the hours are our minutes, okay? Our minute hands, I'll do a different colour so you can see it, sorry. Our minute hands are extra long, okay? They touch the minutes, okay, on most clocks, not all clocks, but they are so long because they are trying to touch, they're trying to point directly to each individual minute, okay? So this one here, I can move it, can you see? Our minute hand is so long, it tries to touch the minute, so you know exactly how many minutes past the hour it is, okay? So that is why our minute hand is extra long, all right? Now our hour hand, I'm just going to change the colour, our hour hand is really helpful as well, now, because our hour hand simply shows you the hour that we're in. So it's a lot shorter, it just points to the hour that we are in, okay? It's shorter than our minute hand because our numbers on the clock are a lot bigger. So it just needs to point to the hour. Okay, so when we are looking at the clock, our hour hand stays short and it just points to the hour that we are in, okay? And as your minute hand moves round, your hour hand goes by really slowly, okay? Until it's the next hour and it'll be pointing on the next number, okay? So our minute hand is longer because it is trying to show you directly which minute it's on, okay? So our minute hand is the long hand, hour hand is the short hand. Another way we can remember this, if you look down here, okay, minute is a longer word than hour, okay? So our minute hand is the long hand, our hour hand is the shorter hand, okay? Because minute is longer than the word hour. That's another way we can remember it. Okay, so at the moment, if you have a look at the clock, what time have I left it on? Okay, so check the hour. What hour are we on? Okay, and where is my minute hand? So at the moment, my minute hand is on the 12. Okay, it's going past it. Sorry, it's gone over the 12. It's at the very, very top here. All right. Now it isn't any minutes past anything yet. If you look at the top, okay, this is where our minutes start, and we're not any minutes past anything. Okay, so we are currently showing 1 because we're in the first hour. We're showing 1, and because our hour hand is right here, that's 0. Okay, no minutes, so that is 1 o'clock. Okay, so if our minute hand is on 0 minutes at the very, very top, that is always o'clock. Okay, and then you just have to check where your hour hand is pointing to know whether it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 4 o'clock. Okay, so now we can have a look at half past. I'm going to show you all these main ones that we're going to do first. Okay, half past. I'm going to show you where our minute hand goes. So remember, our minute hand is the long hand, it touches the minutes. Oh, a little bit longer there. Okay, now if you have a little look, if I was to cut my clock in half, okay, that would be halfway, straight down the middle. If we remember that we've got 12 numbers on our clock, half of 12 is 6. Okay, so it's half past. It's halfway round the clock. Okay, so it's halfway through that hour. So our hour hand, if I started on this one, we started on 1 o'clock, so we'll stick with that 1 o'clock. Now, if my minute hand has gone halfway, then that means my hour hand, it's halfway past 1 o'clock, which means it's halfway to 2 o'clock. All right, so my hour hand is now halfway in between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Can you see? Just about. Okay, so half past our minute hand, okay, is halfway around the clock. All right, so started here, and we've gone halfway round. All right, how many minutes has that been? How many minutes is in half an hour? if 1 hour equals 60 minutes, what will half an hour equal? 30 minutes. Okay, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, that's been 30 minutes. 1:30. Okay, so we're now going to look at quarter past. I'm telling you straight away what it is that we're doing. Sometimes I think that is just the easiest way to help with that. So I'm going to come to my minute hand first again. Now, if I said, actually, let me just get back to my pen. If I said that that is halfway around the clock, okay? So if my clock was split into 2 equal parts like this, that would be halfway. Okay, so this is my half past. What do we know about quarters? What would I do if I wanted to split my clock into quarters? I'd half it again. Okay, and if we start here, and I'm going around my clock, this would be a quarter. Okay, because that's 1 out of the 4 equal parts altogether. So it's just a quarter past the hour. Okay, quarter of the way around the whole clock. So let me put my minute hand on. Okay, so that's a quarter of the way past the hour. If I put my hour hand back on, so we started at 1 o'clock, so I'm actually going backwards in time because we've just done half past. So if it's quarter past, it's only going to be a quarter of the way between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. It's gone a little bit past the 1 o'clock. Okay, and if you have to think, how many minutes is that? How many minutes has it been? So remember, if there's 5 minutes in between each of these jumps on the clock, how many minutes past 1 o'clock is that? It's 5, 10, 15. Okay, so that's 15 minutes there. Okay, so we're now showing quarter past 1. Okay. Oh, so now let's have a little look at these 3 clocks. What time am I showing you on these 3 clocks? So check your minute hands first. Which colour is your minute hand? So remember, your minute hand, the word minute is longer than hour, so your minute hand is your longer hand. It touches the minutes on the clock. Okay, so have a little look where they are on each one. What are the times that are being shown? Okay, so again, you don't have to write this down. You can work out. I'm going to do it one at a time. You can pause me each time if you want to and see if you're right. So the first clock, you can see that my minute hand is the green hand and it has gone halfway around the clock. Okay, so that one is half past. I have to write it down here. And then what's the hour? Which is the hour that it's gone past? Okay, 4:30. And for the second one, my minute hand is in the same place. It's here. That means it's gone halfway around the clock, so it's 4:30 again. And then have a look at your hour hand, so your short hand, it's just showing you the hour. Now, this is clockwise, okay, so we've gone past the 10, not at the 11 yet, so we're still in the 10th hour, so it's 10:30. Okay, and then last one, check where your minute hand is. Okay, so if we are here, that means we have not gone past we're not within an hour yet. We are bang on, what hour? 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock, okay? So it's 0 minutes past the 5th hour. Well done if you got those. Okay, let's have another little look. So pause me if you want to have a quick go and see if you can work out. Write it down if you want to, you don't have to. Okay, so the first one then, check where your minute hand is. So your minute hand is the long hand, it is showing you the minutes, it's touching the minutes. Okay, so it's at the very top here, at the very beginning of an hour, which means it is o'clock. Just have to check what o'clock it is. So check your hour hand now. Which hour is it showing you? And it's 1 o'clock. Okay, for the next one, check where your minute hand is. So it's your longer hand that is touching the minutes. Okay, it is at the bottom of the clock. So it's gone halfway around the clock. So that means it is half past. And then check your hour hands. Remember, we go around clockwise. The hour hand would have gone here. Now, which hour is it still in? It hasn't got to the next one yet. It hasn't got to 10 yet. So that means we're still in the 9th hour. So it's 9:30. Okay, and the last one. Where is your minutes hand? So it's touching the minutes. It's here. Okay, it's the green one. Okay, and it has only gone that far around the clock. Okay, and that is a quarter, 15 minutes past, quarter past. Quarter past. And then what hour has it gone past? So check your hour hand. Which hour is it closest to? Which hour has it just gone past? 7. 7:15. Okay, well done, guys. Right, so now then, we've done the 3 main ones when we're looking at minutes past. We've done o'clock, quarter past, and half past. Those are the main ones. Now, anything in between those, you need to tell me how many minutes passed. Okay, so remember, your minute hand shows you exactly how many minutes. So let's look at this first clock here. Okay, we're going to look at this one first. Now, we said at the very beginning, here is 0 minutes, and we said that in each jump there are how many minutes? 5. So where is our minute hand pointing to now? These little minutes are teeny tiny, so it's going to be so difficult. And if there's 60 of them in an hour, we don't want to be counting each individual one. So what can we count in when we're trying to find out how many minutes passed? 5. We're going to count in 5s. Okay, that's if our minute hand is on a nice segment. So it has only gone to 5 minutes past. Okay, I'm just counting in jumps of 5 minutes past. It's not 1 minute past because there's a big 1 there, because remember that 1 represents 1 hour. Okay, the first hour. The numbers are our hours, not our minutes. Okay, that's why the minute hand doesn't care about the hours. It's covering up the hours. It's pointing directly to the minutes. So that one is 5 minutes past, and then just check what hour are we in. Check your hour hand. It's pointing to and showing you 7. 5 minutes past 7. Okay, for the next clock then, check your minute hand. So remember, we start at the top. Okay, that's 0 minutes. How many minutes is in that first jump? 5. And another jump, 10. Okay, counting in 5s, 5, 10. So that is just 10 minutes past. And then what hour are we in? 9. Okay, and the next one, just checking you remember from last time. And this is one where you want to say 15 minutes past, but we don't need to say 15 minutes past. What fraction past is it? This one we've just practiced. This one is quarter past. Okay, because if we split our clock, oh gosh, that's terrible. If we split our clock into half and half again, it is 1/4 of the way around. So it's a quarter past the hour. Okay, so that's quarter past. And then check your hour hands. Which hour have we gone past? 10. Okay, 10:15. Okay, last little bit then. So we've got to quarter past, and now we're going to look at what there is in between quarter past and half past. So after quarter past, check where your minute hand is on this clock here. Do this one first. Okay, so remember, if you're not sure, start at 0 minutes. Okay, and what I'm going to count in for each jump? 5s. 5, 10, 15 or a quarter, 20. Okay, because there's another way you can think about it, is that 4 lots of 5 is 20. So we there have 20. Remember, it's not 4 past the hour, okay, because those numbers represent hours. It's 20 minutes. Our minute hand is pointing exactly to the teeny tiny minutes. So 20 minutes past. And then what hour are we still in? 12. So we've just gone past. We're not on 1 o'clock yet. Okay, next one. Find your minute hand. It is touching the minutes. Okay, so we are here. If you're not sure how many minutes past that is, then you're going to start at the top, go from 0, counting in 5s. 5, 10, 15, a quarter, 20, 25. 25. I'm just going to write mins now because I don't want this video to be too long. It's already gone over my usual length. Okay, and what hour have we just gone past? 1. 25 minutes past 1. 25 past 1. And your last one, we should all know this one. We are halfway around the clock, so it is half past. And then what hour have we gone past? Okay, we are getting very close to the 6th hour, but we're not at 6 o'clock yet. Okay, so we have to go back a little bit. We are still in the 5th hour, so it's 5:30. Okay, well done if you knew those, guys. Right, then for your do it, you're going to have a go at practicing those. If you get stuck, remember, guys, just go back. Like, literally just drag the video back a bit, okay? All I want you to do is, in your book, you're going to write number 1 and tell me the time that's there. So your first 3 are focusing on those main minutes past, okay? Your o'clocks, quarter past, half past. That's what your first 3 are, all right? I really think you can all do those, all right? If you are really stuck, ask for some help or give me an email. That's not a problem. And then your 4, 5, and 6 is where you're going to be thinking about counting in 5s. Okay, to check those minutes. Remember, your minute hand is the longer one. It touches your minutes. Your hour hand just shows you the hour that you're in. All right, so that's you do it. So pause it there whilst you do it, and then I'll talk you through your secure it afterwards. Okay, so here's your secure it. Now Jason is telling the time. Now I find this picture of a clock is ever so slightly a little bit more difficult. Both hands are black. They're not different colours to try and help you. It is trying to trick you. However, your the lengths are nice and clear because your hour hand just shows you your hour and your minute hand doesn't care about the hour. It is showing you the minutes. Now, Jason says it is 6:08. Is Jason correct? How do you know? All right, if you think he's incorrect, then tell me what you think it is. Okay, guys, good luck with this. Please do give me an email and tell me how you got on with this. I'm really intrigued to see how you got on with it. I don't think in my teaching career I have cracked the best way of teaching time. So to do it through a video, I don't know. I might have cracked it, maybe not. But let me know how you got on and if it's clear and if it makes sense and if you feel confident with it. All right, guys, do check in with me. You'll be amazing. Good luck.
Hi everybody, welcome to your writing session for today. It's Wednesday the 6th of May and we are going to be looking at some non-fiction writing today, and we're going to be linking back in with the work that Miss Williams has just done with you on Butterfly Lion. So I'm hoping you're really going to enjoy the writing task that we've got for you for the rest of this week. Okay, so we're going to start with our warm-up challenge. Remembering we're learning about verb tenses, you're going to change these sentences, please, from the past tense into the present tense and from the present tense into the past tense. Remembering that you can use the word yesterday for these past tense ones and today for our present tense if it helps you. So can you change for me? We trained for the match on Saturday into the present tense, and can you change the present tense, Troy is watching the new Harry Potter film, to the past tense? Pause the video and write those 2 sentences for me. Okay, let's see how you got on. I'm hoping after the practice that we've been doing on Monday and Tuesday, you're starting to get there with these. So we are training for the match on Saturday. Is happening now. Troy watched the new Harry Potter film, remembering that we're changing our endings in those regular verbs. So hopefully you wrote down we are training for the match on Saturday and Troy watched the new Harry Potter film. For this one, if you went for the past progressive tense, you might have written down Troy was watching the new Harry Potter film. Both of those would be correct. Okay, so like I said to you before, we're going to be working over the next 3 days on creating our own information texts, okay? And what we're going to be thinking about is how we can create an information text that is really engaging for our reader and also meets the purpose. So we're going to have a look at a text together. I'm going to read it through with you. And we're going to start off with the introduction of this text, and I'm not going to tell you what the title is because I want you to be able to guess, okay? So what do you think this text is all about? Just from the introduction, let's have a little think. Okay, so it starts like this. Found throughout various countries in eastern and southern Africa, the magnificent African elephant is the largest land animal and is even larger than the Indian elephant. If you're travelling in countries such as Botswana, Tanzania or Zimbabwe, you might be lucky enough to spot one in their natural habitat. Every year, these incredible mammals migrate, which means they have to move around so that they can find food during the wet and dry seasons. So what do you think the title of that text might be? What do you think that text is all about? What's it talking about? Let's have a little look-see and work through it together. Okay, so here we can look at, okay, so did you spot that we were talking about an African elephant? Okay, then we talk about an Indian elephant. Then we talk about these incredible mammals. Have you spotted what it is yet? You're absolutely right. It's a text about elephants, okay? So it might be enormous elephants, it could be incredible elephants, it could just be elephants as the title of this text. But we know just from our introduction, just from reading that little section, that the whole of our text is going to be about elephants. Okay, let's move on to the next bit then. Okay, so now we're going to have a little think about the purpose of our text and why the author's written it. We're also going to have a little think about who it's been written for, what type of audience, and how you know that. So while I'm reading, those are the things I want you to be thinking about. What's the purpose of this text? Why has it been written? What have you spotted? And how does the author do that, perhaps? Okay, so we're here. What do elephants look like? Did you know that African elephants are generally about 3 meters tall, which is the same as 3 young children standing on each other's shoulders? Incredibly, their weight can increase roughly 5,400 kilograms. Normally, male elephants are larger than females, but both males and females have tusks. These are large pointed ivory teeth. Unfortunately, poachers kill these beautiful creatures for their tusks because they can be sold for a lot of money. Covering their bodies, they have wrinkled grey-brown skin, which has very little hair. Interestingly, African elephants can be identified by their ears. These elephants have extremely large ears which are up to 1.5 meters long and are shaped like the continent of Africa. Ears not only help the elephant to hear well, but also help with the heat. Scientists have discovered that the elephant's ears can be used to cool them down so they don't become overheated. Okay, so what's the purpose of this text? Why has the author written it? What do you think? Okay, so the purpose of this text is to give the audience, the reader, lots and lots of information so that they know more about elephants after reading it. So we can see this because it gives us lots and lots of facts. So they're about 3 meters tall. They're 5,400 kilograms. They have tusks that are pointed and large, okay? It talks about their skin being wrinkled, grey-brown. It's describing them for us. Remembering it's given us lots of facts and figures and information. Interestingly, and now I really like this, and I think this is a really interesting point, here, where it says they are shaped like the continent of Africa, or it's the same as 3 young children standing on each other's shoulders. I think that's a really clear description that our author has given us to show us how big these creatures are. They've described them using things that we know. So we know how big a young child is. So if we think about three standing on top of each other, we can picture that, we can see that, which we might not be able to understand if we've just got about 3 meters tall. So as well as giving us that information, it's helping us to understand that information as well. They've given us that extra bit of information to understand. They've also, like you said before, used those descriptions, large pointed ivory teeth, perhaps to help us with those descriptions here. And then we've also given us the description here, which again helps us to be able to see what the author has been wanting us to look at. Okay. So let's move on to the next paragraph. So you'll notice here that we're starting with a question. What do elephants eat? Now, we know that we want to inform our reader. We know we want to give them lots and lots of information, lots of facts, lots of figures. We want them to know all about elephants. So my question for this section as we're reading it through is to have a little think about how the author has informed you. Okay, how have they passed that information to you? How have they made those facts really interesting and exciting? And how have they made it so you understand what that facts and information is? Okay, let's have a read through. So let's start with our question. What do elephants eat? These herbivores actually spend most of their time eating. They have been known to eat roots, grasses, leaves, fruit and bark, and regularly eat up to 260 kilograms every day when they become adults. They use their tusks and trunks to get food and water. The elephant's long trunk is probably the most recognisable part of the elephant. To get water, the elephant sucks water into the trunk, then curls it towards their mouth and squirts the water into it. The trunk has 2 grasping parts at the tip of its trunk, which it uses like a hand. Elephants breathe through 2 nostrils at the end of their trunk, which is an extension of the nose. Okay, so first of all, have a little think for me about how the author informed you. Where do we get the information from? Okay, so you might have spotted the technical language, okay? They're herbivores. Herbivores mean they eat lots and lots of plants, but they don't eat other animals, okay? So we've got some information, some technical vocabulary there. We've also got a list here, a list of information of exactly what they eat. We get some detail in that list. We've got numbers in here, okay? We've also got a bit of an explanation. So to get water, the elephant sucks it into its trunk, curls it towards the mouth and squirts the water into it. It's another little list, but it's actually giving us that information and explaining how it works. Remember, we spotted in the other one, we had a simile. It uses it like a hand. So we know exactly now that the trunk can grasp and pick things up because it says here that it uses it like a hand. If we have a little think now about perhaps how the author engages us when we're talking about it, we can think about the different ways that they make things stand out. So you'll notice here you've got an exclamation mark to make the facts sound more exciting, okay? You will also notice that we've got some repetition of tusks and trunk, okay? It's written in a way that we can understand. They actually spend most of their time eating. It's like they're talking to us. And it says in here as well, you can spot, you can look at the things that you will see. Okay? So we're going to be having to think about those as we move through as well. Okay. So our final one to have a little look at here is how do elephants behave? Okay? So remember, when we're starting here, we haven't even talked about this bit, but we're starting with a question, aren't we? So our question here, how do elephants behave, is another way of engaging us with the writing to ask us, oh, I don't know how elephants behave. I need to read on. I need to find out this information. So we're starting again here, look, with a question. Did you know that elephants are very loyal animals? These mammals have strong social bonds, which means they like living in herds. Their family groups are headed by a female, who is called a cow. Occasionally, males, who are called bulls, will join the group, yet females remain in charge. If we want elephants to avoid extinction, more must be done to protect them. Although many organisations exist to protect this humble animal, the elephant's main enemy is man, and they are in danger of extinction due to the loss of habitat and poaching. Poaching means they are killed for their ivory tusks. Okay, so if we're having a little think about how that author is informing us and how they are engaging us, let's have a little look at the different things that we've done as we've gone through. So in terms of engaging us, we've used some questions. These are a really good idea in our non-fiction text to get the reader to hooked in and want them to read the rest of them, our text. We've also got here a nice diagram. This is engaging for the reader as well. It breaks up the text, but it also gives us lots and lots of information, which is why I've coloured it blue and red. Okay. In terms of the extra information we get in this section, we've now got these bits of information that explain. So we've got who is called a cow, who are called bulls, and this bit with brackets here, you'll notice the brackets give us the information. They tell us what the word poaching means. We've got some of that technical vocabulary: extinction, habitat, poaching, and I'm pretty sure lots of this will be really useful to you as we go on to do our own piece of writing in a bit. Okay, so if we've gone through that text and we've decided that the purpose was to inform the reader about elephants, to give us lots of facts and information, and also to engage the reader so that they enjoy reading it and learn lots, okay? How has the author done this? These are the things that we started to look at. We've got introduction. We've got those comparisons are shaped like the continent of Africa. We've got that labelled diagram right at the end. We've got those subheadings, which were questions, weren't they, which made it a little bit more exciting. How do elephants behave? So we've got engaging and informing there. We've got technical language, but it's also explained that to us. So a female who is called a cow. Okay, lots and lots of interesting facts where they say, but also to help with the heat. So we're finding out those interesting, exciting things about our animals as well. It uses expanded noun phrases in the detail. I didn't spot those, but it says it's a grey-brown skin. And they also, this was the bit where we were talking about saying, it's like they're talking to you to make it sound interesting. They're called interjections. So she says, interestingly, elephants da-da-da-da. Or, but also, they do this. Or they even use it to keep cool. Okay? So I want you to be looking for lots of these things as we do our learning today. So our learning task for today, so you're going to need the workbook that's on the school website for this, because what I'd like you to do is read another non-fiction text, a little bit like we've just read that one together. I've included two in your work packs. There's one about pandas, which is a little bit easier. There's one about tigers, which is a little bit harder. Or if you've got an information book at home that's about animals, or you've found something online that's about animals that you want to read, by all means read those instead. But whatever you decide to read, whether it's pandas or tigers or something of your own, I'd like you to try and have a go at answering these questions. So, can you identify 3 pieces of technical language within your text and try and explain what they mean? So like we had extinction and like we had poachers in the text that we've just read, can you find 3 technical words and explain what they mean for me in the text that you've read? Can you start to make a list of words and phrases that make the facts appear exciting and interesting? This is you magpieing, it's stealing all of those ideas and good things that are happening in the text that you are reading to help you when it comes to writing your own text later on. So can you find things that make the facts exciting and interesting? And then the third one is, do you think your text informs the reader? And what techniques have you spotted? Perhaps looking back at this list of things that we found to help you. And then again, for 3B, does your text engage the reader? Do you want to carry on reading it? Are you excited and interested by it? And if so, how does it do that? How does it engage you? What's your best bit that you've spotted in that text? So I want you to leave the video here for the moment. You're going to pause the video in a second. Have a read of one of those texts or one of your own. Answer those questions, because that's really going to help us tomorrow when we get on to starting our writing about our non-fiction text ourselves. And we're going to be doing some research tomorrow as well. So have a go at that and come back to us when you're ready for your connected curriculum. Okay, I hope you really enjoyed that and you managed to find some interesting facts and information in your texts. Today's connected curriculum, we are carrying on with our work on coastlines. If you remember, in your work pack there are videos, there are some texts to read, all about how we have the different shapes of coastline that we've got. If you can have a look and a little listen and a read of those, that's brilliant. If you want to do a little bit more, if you want a little bit more challenge this week, there are lots and lots of different things that you can do. So one of them is about writing a newspaper report. Another one is about making a model to show the different coastal formations. And if you have a look in the workbook, I think the model picture that I've given you is actually a cake. So not just a cardboard model or something that you can build. You can maybe build it from Lego. You might be able to build it, say, out of food. Really go to town with that one, see what you can do. Challenge 3 is all about coastal erosion and preventing it, and that's a letter activity. And challenge 4 is an explanation which you could do as a poster, as a written booklet, or as a video telling us all about the different types of coastlines that you found out about. I hope you really enjoy those activities. Don't forget to share what you've been doing with your teachers at year 3 at redbrookhayes.staffs.sch.uk or year 4 at redbrookhayes.staffs.sch.uk, because we absolutely love finding out what you've been up to. In the meantime, have a brilliant rest of the day, and we will see you again for more learning tomorrow. Bye everyone.